Ambassador Eliana Drake stood motionless on the central platform of the Grand Judgment Chamber, a vast cathedral-like space carved into the core of Centaurus Station. Thousands of alien representatives from across the galaxy watched from tiered seating that extended upward into darkness. The 7 high counselors, each representing one of the founding species, loomed above her on floating obsidian thrones. Behind Eliana, displayed on a massive holographic screen, Earth rotated serenely, unaware of the betrayal about to unfold. Admiral Thomas Reeves and Dr. Mira Kapoor flanked her, the only other humans permitted to attend this special session. The Council has convened to address the human question, announced Arbiter Voss, the ancient Tellurian whose translucent skin revealed pulsing blue veins. For 2 centuries, humanity has been a provisional member of our galactic community. Eliana's spine stiffened. This wasn't the scheduled 5-year review they'd been promised. Something was wrong. New evidence has come to light, continued Voss, his multifaceted eyes reflecting the chamber's cold light. Intelligence suggesting humans have been concealing technological advancements, violating Treaty Section 87. The Admiral leaned toward Eliana. "This is a setup," he whispered. Counselor Jexari, representing the militant Carvan Imperium, rose from her throne. "We have confirmation that humans possess quantum entanglement technology, far beyond what they've disclosed. Furthermore, their neural interface systems exceed all reported specifications." "Ridiculous," muttered Dr. Kapoor. "We've been completely transparent." A series of classified Earth Defense Force documents materialized in the air before them. Eliana recognized them immediately. Internal research papers on theoretical weapon systems, nothing operational. "These documents," Jexari declared, "detail plans for weaponry that could destabilize entire star systems." The chamber erupted in murmurs of alarm. "This is a violation of context," Eliana protested, stepping forward. "These are theoretical papers only, and they were stolen from secure servers." "Silence!" thundered Voss. "The evidence is overwhelming. Earth has been deemed a Level 9 threat to galactic stability." Admiral Reeves moved to speak, but Eliana gripped his arm. Something deeper was happening here. Her eyes scanned the chamber, noting which species seemed unsurprised by these proceedings. Counselor Thorne of the Eldrazi Collective raised a limb. "I move that we implement the Preservation Protocol." Ice formed in Eliana's stomach. The Preservation Protocol, the euphemism for planetary quarantine followed by forced evolutionary regression. They plan to bomb humanity back to the Stone Age. "The vote has already been taken," Voss announced, confirming Eliana's worst suspicions. "This wasn't a trial, it was an execution announcement. Earth will be contained and preserved, effective immediately. All humans throughout Council space are to be detained and returned to their homeworld for processing." Eliana's mind raced. The emergency quantum communicator in her sleeve could send one word to Earth's defense grid, a single command that would activate the Prometheus contingency, something the Council clearly knew nothing about. As guards moved toward the human delegation, Eliana caught the subtle nod from Admiral Reeves. They had prepared for betrayal, even if they hadn't expected it today. She pressed the hidden transmitter and spoke a single word that would change the course of galactic history. "Run." Within seconds, alerts blared throughout the station. On the holographic display, Earth vanished, not destroyed, but somehow no longer detectable. The counselors rose in alarm as their aides rushed forward with reports streaming in from across the galaxy. Human outposts, colonies, ships, all disappearing simultaneously from sensors. "What have you done?" demanded Voss, his voice trembling for the first time. Eliana smiled as guards surrounded her. "You should have studied our mythology more carefully, Arbiter. Humans have always prepared for the worst, and we're very good at hiding." As the guards seized them, Admiral Reeves locked eyes with the counselors. "You had 2 centuries to learn humanity's most important lesson. Never corner something you don't understand." The chamber dissolved into chaos as reports continued flooding in. Humanity had disappeared, but they were far from gone. 3 days. Earlier, Eliana had received encrypted orders from Earth Command. Intelligence assets had detected unusual Council fleet movements near human space. The instructions were clear. Be prepared for betrayal. Now, as Council security escorted her delegation to a holding cell, Eliana reflected on how quickly humanity's standing had changed. For centuries, humans had been the newcomers to galactic politics, curious, adaptable, and seemingly harmless. They'd shared their art, literature, and scientific theories while carefully observing the complex power dynamics of the Council. They'll try to make us reveal how we did it, Dr. Kapoor said quietly as the cell door hummed shut. Let them try, Admiral Reeves replied, his weathered face grim. By the time they break us, it won't matter. Eliana moved to the small viewport, gazing out at the stars. They were never going to accept us as equals, were they? No, the Admiral said. Our intelligence suggests this betrayal was planned decades ago. The evidence they presented was manufactured. Our technology isn't nearly as advanced as they claimed. Then why? Dr. Kapoor asked, confused. Why fear us enough to risk galactic war? Because we're unpredictable, Eliana realized. In 2 centuries, we've adapted faster than any species in Council records. We've mastered technologies that took other civilizations millennia to develop. Outside their cell, alarms continued to sound as the Council attempted to track the vanishing human settlements. Emergency communications echoed through the corridors as reports came in from across Council space. What exactly did we activate? Doctor, Kapoor asked. The Prometheus contingency was classified above my clearance. Admiral Reeves smiled thinly. Something they never anticipated. For 50 years, we've been developing technology to shift partially out of conventional reality. Not quite cloaking, not quite dimensional travel. When you triggered the protocol, every human installation throughout the galaxy initiated a phase shift. We're still there, Eliana added, understanding dawning. Just adjacent to normal spacetime, invisible to their sensors, untouchable by their weapons. And now the real work begins, the Admiral said, his voice hardening. The Council revealed their true intentions today. They won't get a second chance to exterminate us. In the distance, they could hear the sounds of panic spreading through Centaurus Station. The Council's carefully maintained facade of benevolent governance was cracking. They had moved against humanity expecting an easy victory. What they got instead was the first move in a game they didn't know they were playing. Eliana turned back. From the viewport, a cold determination settling over her. They thought we'd beg for mercy when cornered. Instead, Admiral Reeves said with grim satisfaction, we disappeared, and soon they'll learn what humanity does best. Which is? Dr. Kapoor asked. Eliana's eyes gleamed in the dim light of their cell. We survive, then we fight back. Throughout Council space, the impossible was happening. Humanity hadn't just run, they had vanished like ghosts, leaving behind only a lingering message. This is just the beginning. Aboard the stealth research vessel Horizon, Commander Liam Ortega watched as his crew executed the most improbable maneuver in human history. They weren't merely fleeing, they were vanishing from an entire dimension of reality. When Ambassador Drake's single-word command had reached them, automated systems across every human settlement activated protocols developed in secret for decades. The Prometheus contingency, humanity's insurance policy against extinction. Phase shift complete in 3 minutes, announced Lieutenant Nadia Volkov, her fingers dancing across the quantum interface. All colonial outposts reporting successful transition sequences. Liam nodded grimly. And Earth? The planetary shield is operational. Dimensional anchors are holding at 97%. Behind them, Professor Marcus Way, the architect of the phase shift technology, monitored the cascading equations on his display. They never believed we could do it, he murmured. An entire civilization shifting partially out of conventional spacetime. The ship shuddered as reality itself seemed to bend around them. Through the viewports, the stars began to blur and stretch. Council vessels approaching from Sector 7, warned Tactical Officer Amara Okafor. They're charging weapons. They're too late, Professor Way said with quiet confidence. The pursuing Council warships fired, but their energy weapons passed harmlessly through space, the horizon no longer fully occupied. As the phase shift completed, the horizon and every human installation throughout the galaxy slipped into what scientists had termed dimensional shadow, present in physical space but partially existing in an adjacent reality fold. Invisible to conventional detection methods, it worked, breathed Nadia, staring at the confirmation signals from across human space. We're ghosts. Liam's relief was short-lived. This is just the beginning. We've bought time, but now we need to implement Phase 2. On the main screen, a classified star map appeared, showing hundreds of predetermined rendezvous points where humanity would regroup. The refugees would gather, the military would reorganize, and research vessels would establish new bases in regions the Council had never explored. Commander, called Communications Officer Darius Hall, incoming transmission from Admiral Reeves. The screen shifted to show the Admiral's face clearly in a holding cell. Ortega, status report. Successful transition, sir. All human settlements and 94% of our fleet have completed phase shift. We're assembling at the emergency coordinates. Admiral Reeves nodded. Good. They've detained us as expected. Ambassador Drake managed to transmit the warning before they could stop her. Extraction options, sir? Negative. We're more valuable here as distraction and intelligence. The Council is in complete disarray. They never imagined we could disappear an entire civilization overnight. A grim smile crossed his weathered face. Implement Thunderbolt Protocol. Liam straightened. Understood, sir. As the transmission ended, the bridge crew looked to their commander. You heard the Admiral, Liam said, rising from his chair. Thunderbolt Protocol. We're not just running, we're hitting back. Professor Wei looked concerned. The phase shift was defensive. Thunderbolt is aggressive. They left us no choice, Liam replied, entering commands to unlock a hidden weapon system. The Council betrayed us, tried to condemn our species to prehistoric existence. They thought we'd beg for mercy. His eyes hardened. Instead, we'll show them why humanity survived every extinction-level event our planet threw at us. As the horizon accelerated toward the first target, Liam addressed his crew. For 2 centuries, we played by their rules. We shared our art, our culture, our science. We built bridges between species that had warred for millennia, and their answer was to plan our extinction in secret. On the tactical display, Council military installations began to appear. Today, we teach them the cost of betrayal. In the week that followed, humanity demonstrated that their disappearance was not retreat, but strategic repositioning. From the safety of dimensional shadow, human vessels emerged briefly to strike critical Council infrastructure before vanishing again. Communication relays, sensor arrays, and military outposts fell silent across Council space. Supply chains were disrupted as transport ships disappeared. Not destroyed, humanity wasn't killing indiscriminately, but removed, shifted into dimensional shadow alongside the growing human fleet. Aboard the horizon, Liam reviewed the latest operation reports. Status of the Arcturus shipyards? Phase shifted successfully, Nadia replied. We've acquired 14 Council vessels and their entire dry dock facility. Professor Wei approached with updated scans. The Council is attempting to develop phase detection technology. Primitive, but they're making progress faster than anticipated. They've always underestimated human adaptability, Liam said. That's why they feared us enough to betray us. Amara Okafor looked up from her station. Commander, we're receiving reports from our operatives on Centaurus Station. The Council is fracturing. The Eldrazi and Tellurian delegations are accusing the Carvan of manipulating evidence against humanity to advance their military agenda. Liam allowed himself a small smile. Good. Internal division will slow their response. The view screen activated, showing a secure transmission from one of the emergency rendezvous points. Director Sofia Rivera, the civilian leader coordinating the human diaspora, appeared. Commander Ortega, we've consolidated refugee groups at Safe Haven Alpha through Delta. Civilian casualties were minimal, but we have over 20,000 displaced colonists from outposts that couldn't complete the phase shift. What about research progress? Liam asked. Professor Wei's team has made a breakthrough. The dimensional shift isn't just a hiding place, it's opened up possibilities we never imagined. Her expression became solemn. There's something else you need to see. The screen split to show data streams from deep space probes that had been activated after the phase shift. The readings showed massive energy signatures beyond the galactic rim. "What am I looking at?" Liam asked. "The real reason the Council moved against us," Director Rivera replied. "They detected these anomalies 2 years ago but kept the information classified. Our analysis suggests they're extragalactic entities, enormous and ancient, and they're moving toward our galaxy." Professor Wei studied the readings with growing excitement. "These energy patterns, they match theoretical models I developed for intelligent entities existing partially in higher dimensions." "Are they hostile?" Liam asked. "Unknown," Rivera admitted, "but the Council clearly considered them a threat. We believe they accelerated their plans against humanity because they feared we'd discover these entities and develop defensive technologies faster than the Council could control." Liam considered this new information. "So the Council didn't just fear our potential, they feared we'd outpace them in responding to a greater threat." "Precisely," Professor Wei said. "And they might be right. The phase shift technology we developed for defense could be the key to understanding these entities." As the Horizon continued its mission, humanity's scattered forces were transforming from refugees into an organized resistance. What had begun as an escape was becoming something more. A revolution that would reshape galactic power structures. In the depths of dimensional shadow, research teams were already pushing the boundaries of the phase shift technology, developing applications that would have terrified the Council. Weapons that could selectively phase objects out of existence, shields that made conventional attacks meaningless, communication systems that couldn't be intercepted or jammed. Liam stared at the tactical display, watching as another Council military installation disappeared from sensors after a precision strike. "They thought forcing us to run would weaken us. Instead," Professor Wei said quietly, "they forced us to evolve." On the main screen, the coordinates for their next target appeared, a major Council communications hub that coordinated fleet movements across 3 sectors. With its disappearance, chaos would spread further through Council territory. "Set course," Liam ordered. "It's time to show them that humanity doesn't just survive when cornered. We thrive." As the Horizon prepared to emerge briefly from dimensional shadow for another strike, reports continued to arrive from across human space. Their people were safe. Their technology was advancing. And the Council's betrayal was proving to be the greatest miscalculation in galactic history. Humanity hadn't just run, they had transformed into something the Council could no longer contain. General Kira Yoshida surveilled the battlefield from the observation deck of the EDF Ghost Dreadnought Nemesis. 6 months had passed since humanity's disappearance, and the galaxy had descended into chaos. The Council, once the supreme authority in known space, was fracturing under accusations and suspicion. "The Carven fleet is moving into position around Proxima Station," reported Colonel Devon Patel, her executive officer. "They're accusing the Eldrazi of harboring human fugitives." Kira nodded, watching the tactical overlay. 2 major Council species on the brink of open warfare, exactly as planned. "And our operatives?" "In place, General. Operation Whisper is ready on your command." The Shadow War, humanity's response to betrayal, wasn't fought with conventional weapons. Instead, humans had become living ghosts, appearing from nowhere to steal critical technology before vanishing again. They spread disinformation, sabotaged key installations, and most effectively, manipulated Council species against each other. The Council's unity was always more fragile than they admitted, Kira mused, watching the confrontation unfold between the Carven and Eldrazi fleets. 2 centuries of observation gave us every weakness, every historical grievance, every cultural pressure point. The Nemesis itself was invisible to Council sensors, existing partially in dimensional shadow, while its crew observed real space through specialized interfaces. From this position of perfect secrecy, humanity had been orchestrating the Council's dissolution. On a secondary screen, Human Intelligence Officer Maya Rashid appeared. "General, we've intercepted communications from the detention facility holding our diplomats. They're being transferred to the Council homeworld for enhanced interrogation." Kira's expression hardened. "How many ships in the escort?" 3 cruisers, standard configuration." "Perfect." Kira turned to her tactical officer. "Deploy Shadow Team Delta. I want our people extracted before they reach Council space." As orders were relayed, Kira moved to a private terminal and accessed the most classified aspect of humanity's counter-strategy. On the screen, progress bars showed development of technologies that would have horrified the Council: weaponized dimensional phasing, targeted reality disruption, and quantum-entangled consciousness transfer. Professor Wei's team has achieved breakthrough on the reality anchor, Colonel Patel reported, joining her at the terminal. We can now selectively pull objects from phase space back into normal space with precision. And the reverse? Also operational. We can push specific targets into dimensional shadow, effectively erasing them from existence. Kira nodded, satisfied. Begin Phase 3. Throughout the observation deck, officers moved with renewed purpose. Humanity had spent 6 months learning to master their new dimensional advantages, developing applications that transformed their disadvantage into overwhelming strategic superiority. The first target will be the Judgment Chamber itself, Kira announced. Symbolic and strategic. We'll phase it into shadow during a full council session. Not to harm anyone, but to demonstrate our capabilities. The Nemesis glided silently through space, its reality-bending drives allowing it to traverse vast distances by temporarily stepping outside conventional physics. The massive ship represented humanity's new approach to warfare, not through destruction, but through manipulation of reality itself. We've located the prison transport, Colonel Patel announced. Shadow Team Delta is in position. On the tactical display, Kira watched as specialized stealth craft approached the Council escort fleet. The human vessels were barely visible even to their own sensors, existing mostly in dimensional shadow. General, Maya called urgently, we're detecting unusual energy readings from the escort vessels. They may have developed phase detection technology. Kira frowned. Sooner than expected. Order Delta Team to accelerate the extraction. We need to get our people out before they can adapt further. The shadow teams had been training for months, perfecting the art of fighting while phased between realities. Their specialized combat suits allowed them to control their dimensional state, becoming solid enough to interact with objects or ghost-like enough to pass through walls. On the main screen, tactical feed from Delta Team showed their boarding operation in progress. Council security forces fired desperately at attackers they could barely see, their weapons passing harmlessly through partially phased human soldiers. They're inside the detention block, Maya reported. Ambassador Drake and the others are being secured now. Kira nodded, but her attention had shifted to a new alert. What's happening at Proxima Station? The display changed to show the standoff between Carvan and Eldrazi forces, escalating into open conflict. Weapons fire erupted between the two fleets, centuries of uneasy peace shattering in moments. Did we cause this? Colonel Patel asked quietly. We merely revealed what was already there, Kira replied. The Council maintained peace through intimidation and control. Without that central authority, old grievances resurface. She paused, watching the battle unfold. Our information specialists simply ensured each side believed the other was harboring human technology. The rescue operation concluded successfully, with Shadow Team Delta extracting Ambassador Drake, Admiral Reeves, and Dr. Kapoor from Council custody. As the extraction vessels returned to dimensional shadow, Council sensors lost track of them completely. Bring them directly to Haven Station, Kira ordered. The ambassador needs to be briefed on our discoveries. Haven Station, humanity's new headquarters, existed primarily in dimensional shadow, a massive installation constructed from phased materials and stolen Council technology. Within its secure confines, researchers had made discoveries that transformed their understanding of reality. Hours later, Ambassador Drake stood in Haven's command center, studying holographic displays of Council territory. 6 months in Council detention had left her thinner but more determined than ever. The Shadow War is working, Admiral Reeves noted, examining battle reports. The Council coalition has lost 4 member species, and their military response is fragmented and ineffective. But that's not why you extracted us now, Eliana observed, turning to face General Yoshida. Something's changed, Kira nodded. Professor Wei's team made a discovery while analyzing the phase technology. The dimensional shift doesn't just hide us, it's revealing something that was already hidden. She activated a secure terminal, displaying data that made Ambassador Drake's eyes widen in shock. Is this verified? Triple confirmed, Kira replied. The gene sequences, the archaeological findings, the dimensional anomalies, they all point to the same conclusion. Admiral Reeves studied the data with growing amazement. So we're not just fighting for survival anymore. No, Eliana said quietly. We're reclaiming our birthright. She looked up at the others, a new resolve in her eyes. The Council didn't betray us because they feared our weapons. They betrayed us because they discovered what we truly are. As the leaders of humanity conferred in Haven Station, shadow teams continued their work throughout Council space. They weren't just fighting a war, they were preparing for a revelation that would transform the galaxy's understanding of human origins. In dimensional shadow, humanity wasn't just hiding. They were awakening to their true nature, uncovering secrets buried in their own DNA, secrets that explained why the Council had been so desperate to control them. And soon, the time would come to reveal those secrets to the galaxy. Director Jackson Hayes stood before the assembled leaders of humanity's new government, operating from the dimensional sanctuary they called Haven, a massive space station existing between realities. 3 years into the Shadow War, the time had come to reveal their ultimate discovery. The Council didn't betray us because they feared our weapons, Jackson began, activating the holographic display at the center of the chamber. They betrayed us because they discovered what we truly are. The display showed genetic sequences alongside ancient stellar maps and archaeological findings from across human territory. Humanity isn't just another sentient species, he continued. We're the descendants of the precursors, the civilization that predates the Council founders by 50,000 years. A murmur ran through the assembly. The precursors were considered mythological by most Council species, a lost civilization whose technological remnants had jump-started galactic development. Our research team found the evidence in our own DNA, explained Dr. Lydia Okonkwo, stepping forward. Sequences that don't match Earth's evolutionary patterns, dormant genes that activate under specific conditions. Admiral Reeves, rescued months earlier, frowned. You're saying we're not from Earth originally? Earth was a refuge, Jackson clarified. Our ancestors fled there during some ancient conflict, genetically modified themselves to blend with the planet's developing life, and buried their technology deep beneath the surface. The hologram shifted to show excavation sites across Earth, places where humanity had discovered impossibly advanced technology that defied reverse engineering. The BR awakening protocol that Ambassador Drake triggered wasn't just a defensive measure, Dr. Okonkwo continued. It began activating those dormant genes. The dimensional phase technology wasn't invented recently. It was remembered, encoded in our DNA, waiting for the right circumstance. Professor Wei, now showing visible signs of genetic activation with faintly luminescent patterns beneath his skin, nodded in confirmation. I didn't create the phase shift equations. They came to me like memories I never knew I had. This explains why the Council moved against us, Ambassador Drake said thoughtfully. They must have discovered our genetic connection to the precursors. They feared we would reclaim our ancestral power. Jackson nodded grimly, and they were right to fear it. As more dormant genes activate, we're gaining abilities they can't comprehend. The dimensional manipulation is just the beginning. The assembly fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity wasn't just fighting for survival. They were undergoing an evolutionary renaissance, reclaiming their birthright as inheritors of the most advanced civilization the galaxy had ever known. We have a choice to make, Jackson said, looking at each leader in turn. Do we continue the Shadow War until the Council collapses? Do we emerge from hiding to reclaim our position openly, or do we forge a different path? Admiral Reeves stood. Before we decide, there's something else you should know. He gestured and a new hologram appeared, a massive structure hidden in dimensional space near the galactic core. We found this. We believe it's a precursor archive, containing the sum total of their knowledge and history. Can we access it? Asked General Yoshida. Not yet. It requires genetic keys, multiple individuals, with fully activated precursor genes. All eyes turned to Professor Wei and the dozen other humans who showed signs of awakening. We're evolving faster than anticipated, Dr. Okonkwo noted. Within months, we'll have enough activated individuals to unlock the archive. The revelation transformed humanity's understanding of their place in the galaxy. For 3 years they had believed they were fighting for survival against an oppressive council. Now they discovered they were reclaiming a legacy that stretched back tens of thousands of years. In the months that followed, research teams worked tirelessly to understand the genetic changes occurring in the human population. The dimensional phase shift had acted as a catalyst, accelerating the activation of dormant precursor genes. "It's not affecting everyone equally," Dr. Okonkwo reported during a research briefing. "Approximately 20% of humans show signs of genetic activation. The patterns suggest deliberate design. Our ancestors ensured these traits would remain dormant until needed." Professor Wei's team had become the focus of intense study. As one of the first to show visible signs of activation, luminescent patterns beneath the skin, enhanced cognitive abilities, and intuitive understanding of dimensional physics, he represented humanity's evolving potential. "The archive expedition is ready," Admiral Reeves announced 6 weeks later. "Professor Wei and the other activated individuals have prepared for the genetic interface." The expedition departed aboard the Nemesis, traveling to the coordinates where the massive precursor structure had been detected. Hidden in dimensional space, the archive was invisible to conventional sensors. A sphere of crystalline material larger than Earth's moon, suspended in the void. Professor Wei led the team to the archive's entrance, a seamless doorway that responded to their presence by illuminating with patterns matching those on their skin. "It recognizes us," he whispered in awe. Inside, the archive revealed itself as a vast repository of knowledge, not stored in computers or data systems, but encoded into the dimensional fabric of space itself. The activated humans found they could access this information directly through their evolved neural pathways. When they returned to Haven Station, they brought knowledge that would forever change humanity's understanding of the galaxy and their place in it. The precursors weren't just an advanced civilization, Professor Wei explained to the assembled leadership. They were the original sentient species in our galaxy, evolving billions of years ago. They seeded life throughout the stars, guiding evolution on thousands of worlds. "Including the Council founder species?" asked Ambassador Drake. "Yes. The founders were among their later creations, species designed with specific traits and purposes. But something went wrong. The founders rebelled against their creators, waging a war that nearly destroyed the galaxy." Director Hayes studied the holographic depiction of ancient battles fought with weapons that manipulated the fabric of reality itself. "What happened to the precursors?" "They didn't all die," Professor Wei replied. "Some fled to distant galaxies. Others went into hiding. And some, the group that would become our ancestors, chose a different path. They selected Earth, a primitive world far from galactic politics, and encoded their knowledge and abilities into dormant genes that would activate only when needed. When their descendants returned to the stars," Dr. Okonkwo added, "and faced existential threat. The knowledge from the archive revealed something else, a reason for the precursors' actions that went beyond the rebellion of their created species." The holographic display shifted to show massive entities moving between galaxies. "The precursors developed dimensional technology to defend against these," Professor Wei explained. "Cosmic predators that feed on civilizations, entities so vast and alien that they exist partially outside conventional reality." General Yoshida studied the disturbing images. "Are they still out there?" "Yes. And they're approaching our galaxy again just as they did during the time of the precursors. That's the real reason for the Council's fear. Their long-range sensors detected these entities, but they had no defense against them. When they discovered our connection to the precursors, they hoped to control us, to gain our dimensional technology. And when they realized they couldn't control us, Ambassador Drake began. They decided to eliminate us instead." Admiral Reeves finished grimly. The revelation changed everything. Humanity wasn't just fighting against Council oppression, they were racing to prepare the galaxy for an existential threat that the Council was too fragmented and limited to address. "We need to accelerate our plans," Director Hayes decided. "The Shadow War has served its purpose in keeping the Council off balance. But now we need to focus on a greater threat." As the leaders debated their next steps, Professor Wei worked with his team to develop the most ambitious application of dimensional technology yet: the Dimensional Anchor, a device capable of permanently merging or separating realities. With this, he explained to Ambassador Drake during a private briefing, we could stabilize dimensional boundaries throughout the galaxy, creating a shield against these cosmic predators. Eliana studied the device with a mix of hope and concern. The same technology could also be used as a weapon against the Council. Yes, Professor Way admitted. We could remove entire planets from reality itself if we chose to. But that's not our purpose, Eliana said firmly. Never has been, even after their betrayal. Professor Way nodded, his luminescent patterns glowing softly in the dim light. The archive showed us the mistakes the original precursors made, creating species to serve them, wielding power without wisdom. We won't repeat those errors. As the dimensional anchor neared completion, humanity prepared for their return from hiding, not as conquerors or vengeful victims, but as guardians of a legacy far greater than the petty politics of the Galactic Council. The time had come to reclaim their birthright and fulfill the purpose their ancestors had encoded in their very DNA, not to rule the galaxy but to save it. 5 years after the word run changed galactic history, Ambassador Eliana Drake stood once again in the Grand Judgment Chamber of Centaurus Station. This time she wasn't alone. Behind her stood 50 humans, each bearing the luminescent patterns of fully awakened precursor genes. Around them the air shimmered with dimensional distortion. They existed simultaneously in normal space and in shadow, making them impossible to contain. The council chamber was in disarray. The once unified governing body had fractured into hostile factions after years of humanity's shadow operations. 3 of the 7 High Counselor positions remained empty, their representatives having withdrawn from the coalition. Arbiter Voss, looking significantly older than 5 years should account for, stared at the human delegation with undisguised fear. You requested this meeting, Eliana began, her voice carrying a harmonic quality that hadn't been present before. We have agreed to hear you. Voss struggled to maintain his composure. The Council proposes a ceasefire and negotiations to end the conflict between our peoples. There is no conflict, Eliana replied calmly. Merely consequences. From the shadows of the chamber, Director Jackson Hayes emerged, carrying a crystalline device, the precursor archive interface they had successfully activated 3 months earlier. We have come to share a truth, Jackson announced, activating the device. The chamber filled with holographic displays showing ancient history, the rise of the precursor civilization, their mastery of dimensional science, and their eventual betrayal by the species they had uplifted to sentience, the direct ancestors of the Council founders. Your ancestors did to ours what you attempted to do to us, Eliana explained as the images played out. They feared our advancement and tried to eliminate us. In response, we scattered ourselves across the galaxy, seeding primitive worlds with our modified DNA, hiding in plain sight until we could safely return. The remaining counselors watched in stunned silence as their foundational history was rewritten before their eyes. Earth was just one sanctuary, among many, Jackson continued. There are others, dormant precursor descendants on a dozen worlds throughout Council space, waiting for the signal to awaken. Counselor Jexari rose from her throne, her militant posture abandoned. What do you intend to do? Take revenge for ancient wrongs? Subjugate us as you claim we plan to subjugate you? Professor Way stepped forward, his skin now luminescent with activated precursor patterns. We could. The dimensional anchor is operational. He gestured and a portion of the chamber wall phased out of existence, revealing the void of space beyond before reappearing. We could remove your worlds from reality itself. A collective gasp ran through the chamber. But that was never our purpose, Eliana interjected. Even now, after your betrayal, it still isn't. Admiral Reeves joined them at the center of the platform. 5 years ago, you feared what humanity might become. Today we show you what we actually are. With a gesture from Professor Way, the space above them transformed. Stars rearranged themselves, revealing celestial patterns unseen for 50 millennia. Star systems, wormhole networks, and dimensional nexus points that had been hidden in shadow since the fall of the precursors. The galaxy is larger and more wondrous than you have ever known, Eliana said, her voice gentle despite the power behind her words. And threats exist beyond its edges that will require all of us to stand together. The truth of humanity's origin had spread throughout human space in the months following the archive expedition. Initially met with shock and disbelief, the revelation had gradually been accepted as genetic activation continued throughout the population. Humans were remembering who they had been, not through conscious recollection, but through awakening abilities and intuitive understanding of technologies no human had supposedly invented. Arbiter Voss sank back into his throne as the full implications became clear. The ancient texts spoke of the Shapers, beings who walked between worlds and crafted life from starlight. We believed they were myths. Not myths, Professor Way replied. Your ancestors simply erased the truth from your histories after the rebellion. They couldn't erase it from your DNA, though. All sentient species in this galaxy carry some trace of precursor. Influence, the holographic display, shifted to show massive entities moving between galaxies, beings of such scale and alien nature that several council representatives recoiled in horror. This is why the precursors created the phase technology, Jackson explained, not as a weapon, but as protection against cosmic predators that feed on sentient civilizations. Your ancestors discovered this truth too late, after they had already moved against us. Arbiter Voss sank back into his throne. What are you proposing? Eliana stepped closer. Not an alliance, you've proven unworthy of that. Not subjugation, we've evolved beyond such primitive impulses. Instead, we offer supervision. Humanity will re-establish the precursor network, reactivate the dimensional shields around the galaxy, and prepare all sentient species for what's coming. And if we refuse? Asked Counselor Thorne. Admiral Reeves smiled thinly. We didn't ask for your permission, Counselor. The process has already begun. Throughout the chamber, humans activated personal devices and the air filled with a soft, pulsing energy. Around them, reality itself seemed to flex and shift. What you're experiencing, Professor Way explained, is the dimensional realignment of Centaurus Station. It now exists in both phases simultaneously, as will all major population centers throughout the galaxy. The humans had spent the past year preparing for this moment. While the Shadow War continued as a distraction, their true focus had been on developing and deploying the network of dimensional anchors throughout Council space. These devices, based on technology recovered from the Precursor Archive, would create a galaxy-wide shield against the approaching cosmic entities. 5 years ago, you forced humanity to run, Eliana concluded, surveying the shocked Council representatives. Today we return with the knowledge and power to ensure that no species ever needs to run again. As the humans prepared to depart, Arbiter Voss called out, Ambassador, what happens now? Eliana paused, then turned back to face the diminished council one final time. Now we all evolve or we all perish. The choice has always been that simple. The human delegation began to shimmer with dimensional energy, preparing to phase away from the chamber. One word changed everything 5 years ago, Eliana said softly. Today we leave you with another, awaken. As the humans disappeared, the word echoed throughout Centaurus Station and beyond, carried on quantum frequencies to every corner of the galaxy, activating dormant precursor genes in countless unsuspecting species, the beginning of a galactic transformation that would prepare them all for the greater war to come. In the emptiness left behind, Arbiter Voss stared at the space where Eliana had stood, finally understanding the full magnitude of the Council's miscalculation. They had tried to contain a force of nature, only to discover they had never truly understood what humanity was. In the months that followed, the galaxy experienced a remarkable transformation. The dormant precursor genes embedded in numerous species began to activate, creating unexpected bridges between formerly hostile civilizations. Ancient knowledge surfaced in dreams and intuitions across 1,000 worlds. The cosmic predators continued their approach, vast beings of incomprehensible nature, drawn to the concentrated sentience of the Milky Way. But they found something unexpected, a galaxy wrapped in layers of dimensional shielding, protected by technology they had not encountered since the height of the precursor civilization. At the heart of this transformation stood humanity, not as conquerors or rulers, but as guides helping other species through their own awakening. The Council, once the supreme authority in known space, had been reduced to an advisory body focused on coordinating the Galactic Defense Network. Aboard Haven Station, now permanently positioned at the dimensional nexus near the galactic core. Ambassador Drake watched the streams of data showing the SHIELD network's status. "Will it be enough?" asked Admiral Reeves, joining her at the observation window. "The archive suggests it will," she replied. "But this is just the beginning. The awakening is spreading faster than we anticipated." In the distance, they could see the precursor archive itself, now fully operational and accessible to representatives from all species, showing signs of genetic activation. Within its crystalline corridors, the combined knowledge of a civilization 50,000 years advanced was being carefully shared with the galaxy's brightest minds. "They never understood what they were trying to destroy," Eliana said quietly. "We weren't just another species to be controlled or eliminated. We were the failsafe, the insurance policy planted by the precursors to ensure life would continue in this galaxy." Admiral Reeves nodded thoughtfully. "When they ordered us to run, they activated exactly what they feared most," Eliana finished. "They hadn't just awakened a species, they had triggered the return of the precursors themselves, and in doing so, they had saved the galaxy from a threat they never truly understood."